they are making. They're saying that she has violated the law of Moses, and as such, we must stone her. Now, we'll learn in just a second this is coming because they are trying to test him. Because they know that the Jews do not have the legal right under Roman law, which was over Israel at this time, to execute capital punishment. And so they're saying, well, if you say that, it's not a big deal, we don't have to listen to the law of Moses, then you're going to lose some of your following that way. And if you say, yeah, we should execute people, then they're going to bring it to the Roman authorities and say, this guy is trying to create a revolution. Why don't you arrest him? And so these people are just rubbing their hands together, and we got him. We got him. There is no way out of this circumstance. Now, just so we can appreciate the gravity of this situation. Anybody sleeping yet? I want you to think for a moment how lethal and how scary this situation would be if you are this woman who has done wrong. There is nobody that's disputing that, and certainly not Jesus in this passage. But this is a lethal situation. This is a lethal circumstances. And I'm telling you, when rocks go against your body, your bones, your teeth, your flesh, rocks win, right? A couple of years back, I crashed on a mountain bike and ran and slid into a boulder, and I was bruised and potentially broke a rib at the time. And I'm telling you, when your body goes against rocks, you lose. Now, did I cry? No, I did not. On the outside. But on the inside, it hurt. This is a very serious situation. This lady is brought before Jesus, at least with the possibility that she could be stoned to death. Now look at verse 6. They said this to test him, that they might have some charge to bring against him. So they are testing Jesus with this. Now, if you understand, under Old Testament law, you had to have 2 or 3 witnesses of a crime to bring it before a court. And so the truth of the matter is this is likely entrapment. I won't go into details of it because this is a church, but the truth of the matter is finding people committing crimes was not as easy as you might think. Because you had people don't like to do crimes in front of 2 or 3 witnesses, generally speaking, and certainly not the crime that we're talking about in this passage, right? So if you saw a lady with a person who's not her husband coming out of a bedroom, you could not bring a charge against her. Even if you saw 2 people lying in bed, you could not. And I won't go how specific it has to be, but this is a situation that was potentially set up to have witnesses to see this interaction, this wrongdoing. And they were wanting capital punishment. Now, this passage is not about whether we should have capital punishment or not. I think that we should, and I think you make a biblical case for that. That's not Jesus' point, and that's not my point in this passage. But it was not as common as you might think, even in the Old Testament, because you had very strict criteria before you could go around killing people. You ask this question, why are they bringing this lady to Jesus? Well, you go, because he's Jesus, right? That's what I think. Jesus is not a judge. He's not part of the Sanhedrin. He has no legal right by Jewish law to be doing anything in this passage. Why are they bringing this woman to Jesus? It makes no sense. It is fishy, to say the least bit. And one other big part of this story, they've got the woman. Where's the man? It takes 2 to tango, right? This is adultery is what you're talking about, right? It takes 2 to tango. And so they brought this woman before Jesus, even though the law says if 2 people had been caught in this, both the man and the woman should be punished equally. God's law justice is blind in the eyes of God. So they bring Jesus this woman, and they say, I got a situation he can't get out of. It's like somebody asking you, have you stopped beating your wife? You're like, well, I don't know how to answer that question. because you can't answer it the right way. And that's what they thought they had here with Jesus. So then he begins to write on the ground. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what that is, because we have no idea. That's what all scholars have all sorts of ideas. Why did Jesus stoop in the ground, and what did he write in the ground? We have no idea. But there's some fun examples, and I'll just go through them just a second. And listen to this passage. This is interesting. Some people think he might have written Jeremiah 17:13. Now keep in mind, just last week we had studied the passage about Jesus saying, I'm the fount of living water. Remember, that's just what the previous section he just said. Listen to Jeremiah 17:13. O Lord, the hope of Israel, all who forsake you shall be put to shame. Those who turn away from you shall be written in the earth, for they have forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living water. Now, I'm not saying that's what Jesus wrote, but it would be cool. Some people think maybe he wrote their names, potentially their sins. The word here is actually interesting for write. Is actually, it can mean to write a record against, instead of just the plain word write. But the truth of the matter is we have no idea what he wrote, but he wrote something and spoke something that challenged their hearts. In verse 7, and as they continued to ask him, he stood up and said to them, let him who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone at her. Now, what this is not saying is that people have to be morally perfect to be able ever to adjudicate the law. That's not what they're saying. You could never have any crimes against anybody because nobody is perfect. But what he is reminding them very specifically is that if you are the one who has witnessed this, you are the one bringing this crime against them, you are going to be the one by the law that must pick up a stone first and begin this process. And so we see the oldest to the youngest begin to drop their stones and walk away. And Jesus is left alone with this woman. The condemning people left condemned. Let's look at a couple of application and principles for this before we move into our next section. Here's the year, maybe the next semester, after I had graduated, to go and visit one of my friends who was graduating as well. We found out that our apartment building had been condemned by the city.